Okay, hi everyone. Happy Tuesday. Today's exercise is going to be swimming, and that's all we're going to focus on. So thank you for joining me a little bit earlier today. We have to take my dog Tig, who I'm sure most of you watching this know who she is. She has to go to the vet, and that 2:30 was the only time I could get an appointment. So here we are. So swimming. I think the first thing that I want to say about this exercise is just a reminder that, and you've heard me say this about many of our exercises, now we're starting to repeat positions that our body has already been in. So this is an exercise laying on your stomach where you're taking your spine and your legs into extension. So hip extension, upper spine extension. So anything that you learned, any kind of fundamental element that you learned in your setup position in your swan, in your single leg kick and your double leg kick, you're going to carry over into your swimming. And if you find that these exercises are a little bit trickier for you and you need a little bit more of that fundamental foundational support and kind of how to, I actually do have another tutorial on my channel under the playlist tutorials, and it's called Swan Dive Ouch My Lower Back, because I feel like a common thing with these back extension exercises is people start to grip through their lower backs a lot, just because we have spinal extension naturally comes from our lumbar spine. And so sometimes we'll ask for our spine to do all of the extension at the lumbar spine instead of trying to bend the upper spine backwards. Now, for any of you out there that are watching that do understand anatomy, it is true that you cannot actually take your thoracic spine into extension, but we still want to think like that's what we're trying to do. Anyways, so if you don't know anything about anatomy, just ignore what I just said because that might cause more confusion. So why do we do swimming? I like to think about this part of the class, this part of the flow is like a reprieve. It's a time to come back to your breath. You can start to come back to that oscillating breath pattern. If you do like to practice breathing if you find focusing on your breath is really helpful in your session, then you can start to breathe in for about 5 counts, breathe out for 5 counts, and kind of check in, remind yourself to breathe. I like to think about this as like a flush. And I also like to think about this as a time to lay out the groundwork for the next 2 exercises. So the next exercise that we're going to do tomorrow is our leg pull front. And so you're going to be in a plank position, lifting your straight leg up into hip extension. So I just want to plant that seed now, because then tomorrow you can think, how does your swimming prepare you for your leg pull front? Okay. So what we're trying to do in our swimming is we're challenging our coordination and our breath. Eventually we're going for more quick movements. You're fluttering your arms and legs. So again, that's challenging your coordination. You're going to work your straight legs in hip extension, your spine in extension, and your shoulder in extension as well. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about any kind of modifications for injuries or anything like that. I'm just going to give you tips on this very standard basic swimming as per like what you would see in a classical Pilates exercise. And then let's go from there. So let's play the exercise. I've been really feeling this variation that I'm going to show you all today. I like to start a little bit slower lately. This is kind of a phase that I'm going through, and then kind of build the speed. So you're going to start laying on your stomach. And I'm going to pause here so I have time to say this. I am pushing down into my left foot and my right hand, and I'm lifting the opposite limbs off of the ground. And I'm going to see how much I can lift my limbs off of the ground without my pelvis rotating or without my back arching. Okay, once I've got that, I'm going to lift my upper spine into extension, and then I'm going to start to switch my legs. Okay, so about 10 reps, alternating sides, then you rest everything down and we reset for the other side. So now I'm going to push down into my left hand, my right leg, and I'm going to lift those opposite limbs in the head up and switch, switch, switch. Once you've mastered this, that's when you can start to flutter and take it into a more smooth breath, quick movements. But I will say, if you start to feel like you are rocking back and forth against the movement of your legs, then then I would slow it down and go back to the version that I taught you. After this exercise, I invite you all to take this style of child's pose, so curling your toes under. And this is a great way where you can flow right into our leg pull front. And now I'm regretting that we're not doing the leg pull front today after this, because it would be nice to see them back to back. But this is a great way to flow right into the next exercise, okay? So that's basically my tips. Let's bring it back to the top and we'll play it again. Oops, there we go. Here we go. So set yourself up for success. This exercise happens really quickly, so that's my first tip. Really push your pelvis into the floor, secure that foundation, lift your limbs up, find your spinal extension, okay, and then kind of move from there. Now my second tip is going to be, go at a pace that you can control it. Remember, Joseph originally called this contrology, and we want to challenge ourselves with tempo and all of that kind of stuff, but go at a pace where you can control the movement. So that's my second tip. You don't have to get to this vigorous pace right away. Okay, and I'm actually going to bring it back to the intro screen as I go through bear with me, as I go through my next few tips. And then my final tip is, of course, you want to keep your legs, your knees straight, but my final tip is that we actually don't have a lot of spinal extension. You're not actually going to be able to lift your hip up or your leg up that high behind you. So don't necessarily focus on the height of your leg. Think more about the length and the reach out of your leg, because if you lose that pubic bone connection, you're going to lose the effectiveness of the hamstring working with the glute, that contracting. If you start to bend at your lower back in order to lift your leg up high, you've lost the connection. So pubic bone down into the floor, straight leg lifts without bending the knee. Any amount is fine as long as you feel that glute is working and your pelvis is staying stuck into the floor, okay? Because remember, we talked about this in our side kick tutorial, you have more range of motion when your leg is coming into flexion, so in front of you, than when it's coming behind you, okay? And then I'm just gonna add in one last tip. For me, it's helpful to not think about pushing my hands down, down, down. If I think about pushing down, 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 it causes my shoulders to start to twist, and then it's just a reverb reaction through the rest of my body. So what's helpful for me is to think about lifting my arms up. So lifting the backs of my palms up, up, up to the ceiling behind me, and I usually find a much greater connection than when I push down, okay? So those are my tips. Start at a speed that you can control, okay? Set yourself up for success, so you pay attention to that start position before you start to go into that oscillating breath, before you start to go into that vigorous movement. When you feel ready for it, challenge yourself with a higher tempo, but it's not necessary. Your form and the control of your form is much more important. You're going to focus more on reaching your leg out and off the floor as opposed to up towards the ceiling, so you don't lose that hip extension. And then lastly, with your arms, think about lifting up, up, up instead of pushing down, 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 especially if you're struggling with your coordination. So I hope that's helpful. So tomorrow we will be back for leg pull front and the leg pull. So we're starting to get into our weight bearing exercises. We're evolving, right? We start laying down flat on our backs on the mat, and we are going to evolve and walk away from our mat by the end of this when we finish with our push-ups. So less surfaces of our body touching the ground, more strength required through our core, through our trunk, coordinating all of our technique. So tomorrow is another time change, everyone. I know this is a bit of an awkward time, but we're going to be going live at 4:15 Eastern time. And then, yeah, that's that. And then we'll be back to a bit more of a regular schedule after that. There's just tons going on this week. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great day. For those of you coming to class tonight, I'll see you at 6 p.m. There's still time to sign up if you want to move with me live. And that is that. Thanks, everyone. Bye.